Welcome to another episode of the Beckett's Talking Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Havana Garage in the Old Market. If you're in Omaha, you know what the Old Market is. If you're visiting Omaha, you want to make sure that you spend some time in the Old Market. For that, great restaurants, great bars, great atmosphere, and Havana Garage is a staple of the Old Market. Been there for a long time, and you just sort of get in there, and whether you're a cigar smoker or not, just have a nice cocktail, a conversation, the atmosphere there. They got pictures of like Dean and Sammy and Frank and the good, what do they call that? The Rat Pack. That's it. The Rat Pack. Yeah. The Rat Pack. Anyway, the Havana Garage. And if you don't want to have a drink, stop by S.G. Roy Cigar Store there in the Old Market too, and just get a cigar. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy life. Havana Garage. So I want to, first of all, before I start with this podcast, I just want to thank you. We're checking the numbers, and the podcast is growing because word of mouth, you people are talking about it. You're checking every Tuesday at 10. You go to the Beckett's Talking Facebook page. You go to the Beckett's Talking YouTube channel, and you subscribe. You did all that, and so I do appreciate this. I'm very grateful for your support. So please continue to spread the word, and we'll have interesting conversations with everyday people here in the community. I believe everybody has a story to tell. And I like this story here. Because first of all, he's a friend. I've known him for, almost 30 years, I guess.
Yeah, just about 30 years at least.
Jeez, you're old.
Yeah, so are you.
No. I'm fighting it all the way. But the thing I like about this is that this really is a story about a person following their dreams.
Kind of, yeah.
This is a story about a person following their dreams. Now, this is Jeff Quinn. Jeff Quinn is a magician. Jeff and I used to work together at a radio station that shall not be mentioned.
Okay, I'll make sure I don't mention it then.
But we worked together back then, and you were on the first wave of downsizing.
Yeah,
you got downsized, and you walked out the door of KFAB. You walked out the door virtually nothing and had no idea what you were going to do next, right?
Exactly. Radio was my life. I thought that radio was what I was born to do, what I was going to die doing. I thought that was it. And then it turned out to be not.
Geez, I know the feeling. So what do you do? So before we go into what, you end up doing and became a big success at, what's the process here? Because a lot of people are being downsized, the economy being what it is. What got you through that, and what made you go to follow your dreams?
Desperation. I started off in radio back in the mid-'80s, and I was working up in Wisconsin, little town in Wisconsin, Marinette, Wisconsin. And we weren't making very much money. I mean, go figure, radio, you think money everywhere. No. So we who were on the air had to make extra money by doing personal appearances, remote broadcasts, things like that. So I knew that in order to get more of those, I had to do something unique, something that everyone else wasn't doing. So I learned a couple of real simple, basic, little stupid magic tricks. And I started doing it, and then people started saying, yeah, we want this Jeff guy more often. And then people started calling me and say, hey, instead of the radio station, just come and do my kid's birthday party, or come and do my store's grand opening, or do this. Mm-hmm. So it started off as kind of a side gig, kind of a side hustle. And then I did that at the other stations I was at. And by the time I came back to Omaha, I was born and raised here. In fact, I told you earlier, the house I grew up in is about half a block away from here. So I am really in the old neighborhood. I do. Well, not so much anymore because, it's changed so much over the years. We're doing this in
the Blackstone neighborhood. Yeah. You're right. Blackstone has just grown, Yeah,
I mean, Farnham never used to be a two-way street. Yeah. What is this madness? So anyway, getting back to the story.
You're an old guy talking about the old days.
I am. Yeah, let me reminisce a little bit. So
so you're doing magic, you come back to Omaha. And when I knew you at the station, you were always doing that. You were always doing little sleight of hand magic tricks around there, just sort of.
And even then, it was kind of a side gig. I'd go into a birthday party or a daycare retirement home, but nothing real big because, it was just kind of fun, extra money. But radio was my bread and butter. And then I started making more money doing magic part-time than I did in radio full-time. And so when the big downsizing event came and they let 12 people go in one day, and I was one of them, And so I walked out, like you said, with the box of stuff from my desk, thinking, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, this magic thing is doing okay for me, but if I apply myself, can it be bigger? And somebody up there was looking out for me because the bookings started coming in. I started getting repeat bookings and regular gigs, and it all just kind of grew from there.
Okay, so now, drawing in personal, were you married at the time you lost the job at KFAB? Were you?
Yes.
Okay, so you had a family, you had
Yeah.
and you had to worry about that, and all of a sudden you're without a job in radio, steady paycheck, and you tell your wife that you're going to be a magician full time. How did that go over?
Well, let's just say that about 2 months afterwards, divorce proceedings were in the works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't the current wife then? Okay.
No, not my current wife, not my keeper wife.
Yeah.
Because she supports me 100%, and God bless. I'm so lucky to have her.
Not to get all involved in personal life, but was it a factor that you were trying something new, the magic, and your wife had a problem with the randomness of it, and not the security of a steady paycheck?
Well, there were other problems. Okay, it wasn't just this.
Okay.
But this was a big factor in it.
Yeah.
And there was the uncertainty.
So now you've lost.
Yeah.
Okay, you've lost your job.
Yeah.
You've lost your wife, and you decide that you're going to do magic full time. I got to admit, or at least imagine that had to be a real depressing downtime in your life.
It was scary. It was really frightening, but that kind of urged me on. It's like, I have to do this, because what else can I do? I could have tried to get back in radio, but honestly, the radio world was changing so much, it just wasn't fun anymore. When I got into radio, it was fun. It was a blast. It was terrific. But then, consultants came in and corporations took over, and you have to say this way at this time, and it just wasn't fun anymore.
Geez, I'm unaware.
Yeah.
But you're right. So that changed. So you said, life is short. I want to do something I want to do. I want to do something fun. Was money and insurance and benefits, all that, really a concern, or were you just saying, screw it, this is what I'm going to do?
It was a concern, and I knew that if I had to fall back and take part-time jobs, doing whatever I could, working at the 7-Eleven, whatever, that was always something that I could do. But my heart just wasn't in it. I had an aptitude for magic. I didn't want to be a magician from the time I was a kid, like most magicians will say. This was something that happened to me fairly later on in life. Mm-hmm. And I just found I had an aptitude for it, and I was good at it, and people seemed to like it. I enjoyed the response that I got from people, and I thought, this is maybe what I was really kind of meant to do.
So how do you get the word out then? Hey, I'm a magician. How do you get the word out to people that want to hire you, and how do you decide how much you can charge? And is there like a going rate for magicians? This had to be all unknown territory for you.
Well, more or less. Like I said, I've been doing it part-time as kind of a side hustle for quite a while. And I also was friends with a lot of the magicians in town. And they'd say, well, I'm charging about this for a birthday party, about this for a corporate gig. So that's the range that you want to be in. So that helped out a lot.
Wait. You said a lot of magicians around town.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of magicians around town?
There used to be more. That I came along. No.
You ran them all out of business.
No, there used to be more. In fact, can I tell you a real quick story that I just have to get off my chest? Okay. Like I said, I grew up just half a block away from here. And when I was about 8, 9, 10 years old, there was a rumor going around in the neighborhood that there was a magician at WOW. And so a bunch of us kids, we built up our courage. We came and we went in and saw the receptionist and said, we want to see the magician. And this guy came back from in back, and he did a few magic tricks for us. His name was Pete Petrashik.
I know the name.
Yes. And Pete, decades later, became a dear friend of mine in the magic world and a mentor of mine. And he gave me so much advice and really guided me in a time when I really needed it. And Pete, I think he just celebrated his 100th birthday. So
He's still with us, huh?
Yeah.
No, he was like a cameraman or engineer or something at the station, wasn't he?
I think he was a film editor.
Film editor. Okay, yeah.
So Pete, if you're watching, thank you. God bless you. Love you.
Okay, so there was a guy just working WW that Channel 6 that you know they're just good company was there, and you as a kid you said okay, found out he was a magician, and he came out and did a few card tricks or whatever.
Yeah.
And that. But he had a real job. He just did that as a hobby and kind of fun. Now here you are in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, I'm going to go and do this now.
Yeah.
And so you're doing this. And how do you get the word out? How do people know that I want to hire Jeff Quinn to be, And by the way, when you're doing magic, are you just doing it for kids' birthday parties and stuff? Are you just doing like balloon animals and things like that? What are you doing?
I used to do balloon animals, but I don't anymore because it just kind of hurt my fingers. But I do all kinds of events, everything from kids' birthday parties to corporate events. I've done conventions, cruise ships, just all kinds of things. And I did a dog's birthday party twice.
The dog's birthday party?
The dog's birthday party, yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to fill me in. What the hell is that?
All right. Technically, that was true. It was a dog's birthday party. This woman who lived in Regency had this little, I think it was a Pomeranian or a Shih Tzu or something like that, a very high breed. Mm-hmm. And every year she would have a birthday party for this dog, and she would invite all of her friends over, and her friends would come over with their dogs and bring donations for the Humane Society. And so bags of dog food, $500 checks, whatever. So it was kind of a fundraiser.
It was a fundraiser, but use the dog.
But it was the dogs.
Uh-huh.
So they hired me. And the first year I thought, what can I do? Because I knew I had to stand out. I couldn't just do the standard trick. So I did tricks with dog biscuits. I made a fire hydrant appear. It was it was a dog-themed birthday party. And it was very surreal because the dogs were there wearing party hats. And I am not joking. But I was doing it for the owners. And so because of that, a couple of them decided to book me for events. They were having cocktail parties, whatever. And that's how you get your name out. Steve Martin, in his book, Born Standing Up, said something that was just brilliant. He said, be so good they can't ignore you. And that's what I've always tried to do. I tried to stand out. I tried to be one step above everyone else. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't.
Okay, so I think about, magic now, and you see... you think about like the big Vegas spectacles. Whether it be Penn and Teller, or whether it be the Chris Angel or whatever, David Copperfield and the like. People like that. The big, hey, I'm going to make the Statue of Liberty disappear. That sort of thing.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. But you don't do that. I mean, you're more just. Bring a suitcase full of stuff and do the tricks?
More or less, yeah. I can do larger things, not as large as like a David Copperfield does, because those tricks, they run $50,000, $70,000. I'm doing okay, but I'm not making David Copperfield money. But I do things that can be seen by an audience of maybe a couple hundred people, and I can do things that are just right here in front of you. So. I am kind of well-versed. I can handle different kinds of venues, and I think that's one of my strengths.
And you are now the president of the American Magicians Association?
Close. I was.
Okay.
It was a one-year term. I was the 100th president of the Society of American Magicians, and which is the oldest magic organization in the world.
That's like Houdini, founded that or something, right?
Yeah. And Houdini was president number 11.
Okay.
And I was number 100. And I'm the only president of that group to come from Nebraska. So go Big Red.
Now, when I did stand-up comedy, I worked with magicians from time to time. They were working the comedy clubs and that. I don't see that so much anymore. The stand-up in that, I don't see that. And then with social media, Reels, and TikTok and everything. The only magic I'm really seeing on that are a couple of clowns, and I think they're from Europe somewhere, where they've got. I know you probably seen them too, right? With the big blanket and the gold blanket and stuff. And I mean, it's not magic at all. But
it's.
I think they call themselves Siegfried and Joy, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a spoof of magic.
Yeah, most certainly,
a parody.
Yeah,
and that's okay. That's fun. I don't mind that. But there are people on the internet who, their gig, their shtick is to expose magic, and why are you taking that away from people? I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and that's a shame.
There was a TV show for a while that did that. Yeah, wasn't there? Yeah,
the Masked Magician.
Yeah,
and a lot of magicians were really up in arms about this. How dare they? How could they? How could they possibly? But when you think about it, how many people really saw that show?
It was on Fox, so not many.
Yeah, exactly. And it was filmed with a Handycam camcorder. But no, it didn't reach that many people, but magicians were aware of it, and they were furious because it gave away some really good secrets. But that kind of prodded us to find new ways of doing those same illusions. So if someone said, oh, I know that you've got an assistant behind that wall. Well, no, there's no one back there. We can show the wall empty or something like that. So it kind of provoked us into coming up with new methods and new ways of doing things, and really kind of furthered the art, I think.
Penn and Teller, have you ever watched, I'm sure you have, watched the show Fool Us?
Yeah, I know half the people that go on that show, and I'm thinking, oh, he's not going to fool them.
Okay, so Fool Us, if people that don't know, it's a show where magicians come in front of Penn and Teller.
Yeah.
They're in Vegas, and they do a magician act, they do an act, and they do a trick, and then Penn and Teller have to figure out how they do the trick.
Right.
But instead of exposing the trick, they talk in this code.
Yes.
Well, Penn does. Gillette just sits there. Teller just sits there. Yeah, Penn, Gillette, and Teller. Penn talks in code.
Yeah.
And I have no clue what he's talking about.
Good.
But the other magician says, yeah, that's how I did it.
And every magician watching says, yep, that's it.
So you understand.
Yes.
Like if you watch that, you understand what Penn's saying.
Yeah. You have to read between the lines of what he says.
Well, I figured that as much, but it still makes no sense.
And he'll say a word, maybe repeat a word a couple times, and that could be the name of the creator of a certain item or someone who created a certain method of making a card appear, and so that refers to that. So we're listening for these little snippets.
We've talked about some of the big name magicians.
Yeah.
When you're there doing, like I said, I worked with magicians. I worked with a lot of comics. I, did that. Every one of them. And it's like every politician, I think at one point or another dreams about being president, right? Everybody that has an open mic night dreams of being, having a big Netflix special, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so when you're there doing a show for dogs in party hats, are you thinking, someday I'm going to be in Vegas and they're going to know who I am and that? Or is that just saying, no, I enjoy doing shows for dogs in party hats?
It's me saying, I want to make rent this month. And for a long time, I mean, starting off, right now I'm doing upwards of 300 shows a year. And back then, I wasn't doing that. I was doing maybe a couple shows a week. And I had to do whatever I could. And there were a lot of times when, some bills didn't get paid, or I was eating ramen and ragu at night, and so...
Ramen and ragu, one of the famous vaudeville magician acts way back when, yes.
So I took every job that came along, and that's great because it added to my versatility. And I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything because it really helped make me a better magician, a better performer.
Now, you talk about doing 300 shows a year.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you're doing schools, you're doing libraries, you're doing corporate work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine, so you're doing 300 a year, you're doing 2 or 3 shows a day sometimes, right?
Sometimes up to 4. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. This coming summer, I'm doing a bunch of libraries throughout the Midwest, and there's a couple days where I'm doing 4 shows. And then during their open season at Bella's Pumpkin Patch, Sometimes they have me doing 5 or 6 on a Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you do Dallas Pumpkin Patch every year, don't you?
Yeah, and thank heavens for them. They are wonderful out there. I mean, that's one of my favorite places to perform because the people are nice, the audience there, they're friendly, and I get to just do my thing and have fun. And
so, I would imagine that you probably see a lot of the same people every year. They come and see you. And
yeah.
So that's fun. Do you have dreams of one day being on the Vegas stage?
No, I don't. And I do get asked that, and people say, you should go to Vegas, you should do that. Well, a friend of mine who used to work in Vegas did this lecture for magicians. And the title of the lecture was, it was something like, Welcome to Vegas, now get out. And he went over all the things you need to be a successful act in Vegas, how you have to go out and promote their show. You have to buy the ads on the taxis, and you have to do this, you have to do that, and then hope that people are going to come because there's a lot of competition in Las Vegas, especially among magicians. And you're competing with David Copperfield. You're competing with Penn and Teller, and it's tough. And there was a time when I thought about maybe doing like a thing in Branson or doing cruise ships more often. Mm-hmm. But, I have kids, now I have grandkids, and being away from them for an extended period of time is just, it's not the lifestyle I want. Right now, working locally, I get to live the life I want, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a whole different kind of paycheck.
Doing comedy, when I was doing comedy, you really needed the audience to know if it was any good.
Yeah,
you needed the audience to get the feedback. I mean, I could write a joke and I could practice it and I could rehearse it and I memorize it, but I don't know until it's actually in front of an audience.
Uh-huh.
If you're working on a new magic trick, is it the same with that? I mean, or do you know? I mean, you get to the point and say, "Oh yeah, this is going to fool them. This is going to really blow their mind." Or do you go there and say, "This don't really blow their mind," and people look at you like, "Oh, that's stupid. That's hokey."
Yeah, I wish that I could be that certain, but I have a basement full of tricks that cost me $700-800 that I've never done because it just doesn't get a good reaction. So. I think that any trick can be a winning trick if it's performed properly, if it's done, presented the right way. And some of the tricks I have, I just haven't found that way yet. And other tricks are just killer from the get-go. But like for libraries, every year I put together a new show for libraries because they have a new kind of a theme each year for their summer reading programs. Mm-hmm. And so I work hard. I put together a whole new show. And new tricks, new pattern, new everything. And I'm meticulous. Which trick goes well with this one? Which trick needs to be separated from this trick? And there's a whole lot more that goes into it. It's very detailed. And what I make a point to do is the first show of every season, I videotape the show. Then I videotape the last show. And sometimes it's a whole different show. Sometimes one trick doesn't work or it has to be moved to this place or I have to bring something else in, and you wouldn't recognize it really as the same show.
Be right back. I got to take a quick mention here one more time for the folks at Havana Garage in the Old Market. Havana Garage, which was there the other night, and it's always just a nice place, especially this time of year. They got an outdoor patio in the back. They have a nice outdoor patio in the back. They've got live music sometimes on the weekends. Some great guys and gals playing music there. And really, it's just a nice place. So if you're not going out for dinner, maybe a show, maybe you're going to see a magic show out of the Orpheum. Penn and Teller are coming to town, aren't they?
Yes.
See that? Yes.
Yeah, they are.
So you go see Penn and Teller at the Orpheum, and then go and have a cocktail or two and enjoy yourself at Havana Garage in the Old Market. Havana Garage. Tell them you heard about it on the Beckett's Talking podcast, and I will see you there. So you were talking about you buy a magic trick, $500, $600, $700 or so, right? It's like another magician in Des Moines had the same trick, and then another magician in Topeka, and somebody in New York. So in other words, these are not magic tricks that are just yours, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because I imagine, like I said, going back to the big names.
Yeah.
Siegfried and Roy didn't have people doing lion act. In Wichita.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but the acts that you buy, the stuff that you buy, can be used by magicians all over the country.
There are magic stores, there are magic catalogs, there are magic conventions where we all learn the same thing. But the real magic in the trick is how the magician presents it. You can have 10 magicians doing the same trick, and probably each one is going to do it a little bit differently. And each one is going to kind of add nuances to make it their own. And I think that's wonderful. I think that spurs creativity. And that's great. I love it.
Do you ever create magic tricks and then sell them to other magicians?
No. I come up with ideas and I piece together things and see if it works. If it works for my show, then I'll do it. Or I'll take 2 tricks that currently exist and I'll mesh them together into kind of a Frankenstein's monster of a trick, and they complement one another. So I'll do that. So that's really creating my own routine. So I'm more into creating my own routines rather than my own actual tricks.
Because there is an art form to that, isn't there? I mean, it's not just, okay, I'm going to saw a lady in half.
Right.
I mean, there is a real art form in the story that goes along with it to get you to buy into what you're doing, right?
Yeah. And there's so many different ways. I mean, there's the David Copperfield way where there's fans blowing the hair and windswept and the dramatic music as the saw comes down, And there's the comedy version where a guy just takes a saw and saws in a box and there's screaming and, legs. And so it's the same trick, basically, but different presentations for different reactions, different audiences.
So what's on the agenda for you now? I mean, is this basically, you want to do this until you're 100 years old? You want to just keep doing this?
I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. I don't have any big plans. I have the summer reading program tour coming up. So I'm really looking forward to that. And after that, there's going to be a little bit of a lag time. Then I kick in at Valles again. But as far as doing this forever, I want to do it as long as I can. I want to do it as long as I can be true to the art of magic, But if I start getting arthritis or, I start dropping things and it hurts the art of magic, then I hope I will have the grace to step away. But on the other hand, just talk about Las Vegas, Penn and Teller, they're older than we are, and they're doing a great job. Teller's had a few operations and everything, and he's doing well. And then if you look at the singers, I mean, right now in Las Vegas, Barry Manilow and Rod Stewart, they're in their 80s.
Yeah.
And they're packing them in, and they're still doing good jobs. They're touring.
Well, that's really the thing with performers in general.
Yeah.
So many of them, my goodness, Don Rickles was going into his 80s or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, Sinatra and those people were doing that. If you're good at what you do and you love it, that youthfulness still hangs in there, and it's not really a job, is it? I mean,
no, it's great.
That's the thing. I mean, I love doing this. I love the conversation. Yeah. I love the talking. I love the broadcasting and the radio and everything. And I had to adapt to the changes in technology and the changes in what the audience was buying. But same here. I mean, as long as I can keep doing this, I'll do this until I'm 90.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to. The idea of retirement doesn't appeal to me.
Exactly.
It's like if I can have good conversations with people, and we got some good conversations coming up here. And by the way, and if you haven't gone to the Becca's Talking YouTube channel, go and do that, because there's an archive of all these podcasts that you may have missed. But I digress. You find something that you love, and keep doing it. And that's so hard for so many people to understand. It brings me to how we started this.
Yeah. There's the old trope that says, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And there's a lot of truth to that, or you are working, and I do a lot of legwork and paperwork and all this and busy work, just to make the show happen. But I love it. I love it. I can't see myself doing anything else.
But this goes back to what I said, how we started this whole conversation. I mean, the best thing that happened to you was that you got let go by KFAB.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Because that gave you the opportunity to do this. You could have been tied into a job that you liked, but, didn't have the passion for that you seem to have with magic. But you took the leap of faith.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how old were you? How old were you when you took that leap of faith? Were you like in your 30s? Were you 20s? What were you? How old are you?
I'm 64, and so this happened 25 years ago. So I'll let you do the math.
That's more than 25, I think. Yeah, because I went to Kansas City in '99, and I think this happened before I went to Kansas City.
No. It for some reason I remember it happened on May 31st of 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, and so I'm coming up on the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
And another good thing, and I don't mean to tout my own horn, but I just want to say here, 300 months straight of being Employee of the Month. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, but actually, the Chamber of Commerce has honored you as Small Business Person of the Month, right?
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an honor, too. And I have nothing but good things to say about the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. And when the pandemic hit, it hit performers especially hard. And I'm a one-man operation. And I'm in the business world, I'm minuscule. The Chamber of Commerce called me and asked if I was okay, asked if they could do anything for me. They called me. How awesome is that? And, kudos to them. Kudos to them.
That is, yeah. No, we are very lucky. We have a very strong and solid chamber here.
Yeah.
Just one of the great things about Omaha.
Yeah.
Does your wife? Does she work? Does she? I mean, I'm thinking about all the other issues you have to think about, like benefits and the like.
Yeah.
So like, does your wife work to be able to provide health insurance and all that? Because if it's a self-employed person, that can really cost you an arm and a leg.
Well, my wife is self-employed too.
She is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is she the assistant?
No.
That brings you the rabbit in the hat? No.
She has. I don't think that my wife Tammy has ever appeared on stage with me. She does not want to be on stage. She will, but she's a big part of what I do because I will show her tricks and she'll watch my show. And then she'll say, this sucked.
Yeah.
Or you should do this, or maybe if you say that, or move this way. So she is the layman's eyes, because I look at everything through a magician's eyes, and she doesn't do that. So she watches me and she critiques me, and I need that because there's some things that I think are great, but I just don't see. I just don't see it the way that a normal person would. Mm-hmm. And
what would you say to somebody right now who doesn't have the courage to do what you did? Or for that matter, look, I quit a good job when I decided to do comedy. I quit a day job to go on the road and, tell jokes to a bunch of drunks in Indian, Oklahoma. And boy, my mom never understood it. My dad was very supportive. My mom, what the hell are you doing, Tom? You don't have benefits. You don't have insurance. What the hell are you doing? But people out there that have like responsibilities, but maybe want to follow a dream.
Yeah.
Sometimes would you recommend that they do it, or would you say that it's not for everybody?
That's a very good question.
Thanks. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. I can only speak from my experience. I would say ease into it, because that's what I was doing. Like I said, I'd been doing magic tricks, making money off it for a good 10, 12, 15 years before I got let go, before I had to make a living at it. And so I was easing into it, and I had my show down. I had my tricks down. I had a few connections. And doing what I did in radio, I learned a lot about how to use microphones and how to talk to people and how to do public appearances and write, things like that. So those were some skills I picked up along the way. So if you want to really make the leap into anything that you want to do. Get the necessary education you need. Get the promotion skills if you need those. Get the public speaking skills if you need those. And then if an opportunity presents itself and you feel confident, go ahead, go for it. Because even if I failed, even if this didn't turn out, I would always be thinking, what if? What if I had done that? What could have happened? And I'm telling you, I'm living a great life right now. I have a wonderful home, wonderful wife, wonderful job, a job where, I don't hate getting up in the morning to go to, so, yeah, if you're thinking about it, do yourself a favor, give it a shot. I mean,
yeah, be prepared. Be prepared. You got other family responsibilities. I mean, at the time I was a single person, so I didn't only had to worry about myself.
Yeah.
But if you worry about your responsibilities, have those taken care of. But yeah, I'm much like you. When I decided to go on the road and quit the day job, I just said I'd rather be 80 years old and talk about my years in show business than be 80 years old and say I wish I would have tried.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do. I love a story. I mean, and look, not everybody that goes and follows their passion, follows their dream, takes that leap of faith, has a happy ending like you do.
No.
I mean, it is a risk. It is a risk. There's something to be said about just that nice, secure 9-to-5 paycheck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if that's where your heart's at, if that's where your passion's at, go and take that chance. You can always find another job somewhere else.
There's jobs everywhere. If you need to make money, you can make money, but it's not going to fill you in here. And to me, that's always been important. When I got into radio, it was because radio was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. And I got to live that. And for a while anyway.
Yeah.
And had some of the best times, met some wonderful people, had some terrific experiences. And now radio faded, magic came in, and I've been having just as much of a good time. It's been terrific.
One last question here.
Yeah.
So many people with their jobs right now are worried about artificial intelligence, worried about technology taking their jobs, taking their positions. Is that a concern for you? I mean, people can be entertained now so many different ways. I mean, back 100 years ago when the Society of American Magicians was formed, there weren't that many opportunities for people to be entertained. But now, with the internet and everything, got so many opportunities. Do you worry about that as far as technology hurting your business or maybe even eliminating it at some point?
I've thought about it. I don't think it will ever eliminate it. Hurt it? Maybe, because there's going to be more options out there. But in London, about a year, 2 years ago, the ABBA Arena opened up. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just basically holograms of ABBA doing their stuff. And I haven't seen it. I hear it's remarkable. I hear it's great, but it's not ABBA.
Yeah.
But it's a new way to go and see kind of live music. But as far as magic goes, I think there's always going to be a place for it. I think that you can see little holograms doing things, but when you see someone in front of you, this far away doing something, it sparks an amazement that I don't think you can get from anywhere else.
But I just wonder, though, but because of the technology and everything, is it harder to impress these young kids?
Sometimes,
I mean, is it harder to impress them? Like if you're doing a library show, is it harder to impress those young kids than it might have been, 15, 20 years ago when you didn't have the internet and you didn't have AI and you didn't have holograms dancing? I mean, is it tougher now to impress these kids, or are kids always going to be kids and love to see the magician?
Not just kids, but adults too. Pretty much every show I do is a family show. It may be geared towards kids, but adults from the background, they're having a great time too. And I think that if you can get the kids from looking down at their screens and looking at what you're doing, and I think that the onus of that falls on the magician. You know, they have to be engaging. They have to get the attention. They have to be so good that you can't ignore them. And in how they present the trick and how they engage with the audience, I think that is just as important, maybe even more important than the actual trick itself.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, I imagine you're all over social media, right? Jeff Quinn?
I am Jeff Quinn. I have 3 websites. JeffQuinnMagic.org, not .com, because there's a whole story about that being stolen from you. Anyway, so Jeff Quinn.
Wait, there's another Jeff Quinn out there?
Well, no. I let the JeffQuinnMagic.com lapse, and some company in Bulgaria or something got hold of it, and they're doing something weird with it, and so that's not me. But JeffQuinnMagic.org, or, okay, this is going to sound so egotistical. BestLibraryMagician.com. Doesn't that sound like I'm full of myself? It was available. If I didn't get it, someone else would.
Why, you mean there's more than one librarian magician?
Yes. Oh, the competition is fierce. It really is.
Really?
It really is, yeah.
Really? Actually, I have a friend who's an artist who has written children's books.
Yeah.
And he does the library tours, the school, the library tours, and makes a decent living at it. And that's something that people don't realize, that there's actually a market out there for this sort of thing, you know, to be a performer, to work the libraries, to work the schools and that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was leaving the radio job, the first thing I did was I took a sheet of paper, I wrote down every place that could possibly, in my wildest imagination, hire a magician. And I went down from clubs and libraries and schools and everything all the way down to funeral parlors. I mean, just anything I think that in the remotest chance, and those are the people that I started contacting, you know. And so, yeah, there are venues out there, and there's still plenty of places for magicians to perform.
Funeral parlors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, for my next trick, Grandma, rise. No, anyway.
I did a funeral once, too, along with the...
Did you actually do a funeral show?
I did a funeral show.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I am not kidding you.
Somebody hired a magician for a funeral?
Yes. Okay, here's the logic behind it, okay?
I'm sure there's no logic behind it, but...
Well, there was, okay? They had me in a different room entertaining the children that were there while the service was going on, so they wouldn't focus on Uncle Harvey going to the great beyond. I don't know if the psychology behind that is sound, but the check cleared. So that was enough for me. Yeah.
But actually, I guess that does make sense.
For all your funeral parlor needs, contact Jeff Quinn.
See if that domain is still available. Yes, bestfuneralparlormagician.com. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like the the Beckett's Talking YouTube page, the Beckett's Talking Facebook page. Also, make sure you know that every Tuesday we've got a new podcast with interesting people. You never know who's going to pop up next. Could be a little bit of anything, you know, anyone. And I'm really having a riot doing these podcasts, and the numbers are growing, and it's growing because of your word of mouth and your support. And I can't thank you enough. Till next time, take care and bye, y'all.